Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Small Business Runway platform. I'm your host today, Tshabalala, and I'm so happy to be hanging out with you guys again. It is a Monday. That means another session, another live, and another fruitful business conversation. You guys know the whole goal and aim of these lives is really to bring you the leaders and people that will help you in both your personal and business development. So I hope you guys are ready for that. We do these every single Monday at 6 p.m. Hopefully you are at home. Hopefully you are in a space where you can just sit down and have a listen in the conversation and, just really, get some ideas that you might not have thought of before. I just want to put a disclaimer that I don't normally put makeup on. I'm not really a big makeup person. But today I had to make some effort because of, the guest that I'm talking to. And so, we're still learning. We'll get there. Where we can do like a full face beat. That would be so exciting to see what I can learn and actually pull off eventually. But welcome to everybody that's joining us right now. You are speaking to Nozipho. I am a business builder. I speak, I teach, and I train small businesses with practical tips and tools to grow. As I said, I bring amazing guests every single week so that we can engage. Don't forget to, click the little arrow button at the bottom of your screen. It's a little triangle. Share this live with as many as your friends as possible. Tell them that there is a girl out here who is, business bae, that is helping small businesses with, sales and marketing. We're all about so it's sales and marketing. It's all about the business coaching. It's all about networking. It's all about, creating small business events and just really having the important conversations that nobody wants to have about business, about money, about personal development, about all the good stuff, anything to help you move your business and yourself forward. This is the platform for you. So go ahead, show me some love. If you're joining me for the first time, let me know where you're joining from. Drop me a heart emoji so I can properly greet you and so that we can properly welcome you. But our guest is here. Like the consummate professional she has been here literally ever since the minute I went on live, and I'm grateful for that. I'm not going to waste any more time. Lots of questions, lots of conversation. The discussion is practical, so please do join in. Ask your questions. We'll just read a few that we can. But really, we just want to have just like a robust discussion. In fact, let me add her and then let me welcome her. So while I'm adding Nozipho Tshabalala on, Nozipho Tshabalala is a conversation strategist. And she says she helps smart people have simple conversations that make the world a better place. Simple, easy. I'm not even going to go into her education. We want to hear straight from her where she has been, what she has done, and what has led her to this journey. And as she comes on, continue to show us some love, continue to just share this live with your friends, tag anybody that's interested in business development and anybody that wants to learn and grow with us. So hello, Nozipho, how are you?
I'm good. I must say my makeup is so tired. I'm like desperately looking for a filter that won't make me look dead. There we go. I've had an incredibly long day, and every now and then a filter helps a sister out, right?
Right? I totally agree. And I've obviously been watching you the whole of today. I know that you were busy, but thank you so much for honoring this appointment. You're right on time. I always appreciate when my guests are on time. I try to be on time as well. So that 2 minutes, I was almost panicking. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get this time right, because I respect you, and the fact that you agreed to actually come on my platform, I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me. It's a privilege for me just to, in any way I can, whether it's sharing my story, whether it's sharing my journey, whether it's tips and tricks about how to make it as a businesswoman, not only in South Africa, not on the continent, but in the world. I'm happy to share.
Amazing, amazing. So we'll get straight into it. We want to know more. I always try to watch content, of all of my guests beforehand. I always try to research you beforehand. So I've got a better sense of, whoops, okay, that's my earring. And as it happens on live, you cannot stop what's happening. So I'm going to go ahead and just get that off quickly. But I always try to have a conversation that I feel like you've never had before. I don't know if that makes sense, but where I want to start this is, for you to tell us just a little bit about your background, just a little bit about your why, where you come from and why, what has led you to this point in your life.
Sure, it's such a beautiful question. A little bit about my why. So I'll tell you where I come from. I'm from Pietermaritzburg, so I'm a KZN girl. I come from a fairly small family. When I think about my story, I don't think it's very different from many of us who are Black South Africans. I think we all have some similarities in terms of our starting point. Poor family, uneducated parents, parents who just, struggled but made sure that they tried for you. And always also having the fire of not wanting the way you've been raised to be the way that you live, and not wanting your starting point to be your destination as the fire. That's really fueled me to try and do the best that I can. I came to Gauteng to study at Tux on NSFAS, like a lot of people. I stayed in Sunnyside in a bachelor flat with 3 other girls. We ate bread and sugar when the money ran out. But I've always been a little bit of a nerd, I think, a bit of an academic. And that's because, a lot of things are formed because of the conversations that people are having with you as you're growing up. My parents used to always tell me that I'm so smart and I'm so intelligent. And I think as a child, you begin to believe that, and you begin to project that in your life as well. So I've always loved studying. It's one of the things that I've always gravitated towards. And my why has always been rooted in using the gift that God gave me of being able to articulate myself and to tell stories and to share ideas in such a way that it impacts the lives of others. So my why changes in terms of what it looks like exactly in different phases of my life. So there's a time when I was a financial journalist where my why was about telling the African business story. There was a time when I was the head of communications for Tata, right, the car company, and my why there was about making sure that I was telling the story of this the 5th biggest conglomerate in the world, and the kind of things that they were doing in terms of investing in Africa. My why right now is really about using my ability of using the science of conversation to shift behavior, to shift policy, to shift institutions, to provoke leaders so that we are really building the kind of societies that we want. And I'm open to the idea that my why might change in 5 years, 10 years, whatever the case may be. The one thing that remains consistent is the thing that I was born with, and that is God's own gift in my life to say the thing that is in your veins, it's in your DNA, it's in your bloodstream, is this ability to use your voice for change and use your voice for impact. So I don't know if that helps as an answer.
Yes. So that helps greatly. And I mean, you put it so eloquently, that your why changes, which I think is a point that I want to, I just want to hop on that just a little bit, because I think as we're growing up, we are, like you said, when you were growing up, people had, your family, started telling you how intelligent you are. So we kind of grow up believing, there's a certain story about your life, believing where your kind of destiny is. And we kind of get into a little bit of a panic when, things don't maybe necessarily go your way immediately. We're kind of, stressed out, or, we kind of lose the momentum of, no, it can change. It can be different today. It can be different, in a year's time. it doesn't always remain the same. And so I'm trying to get the sense from you that when did you actually become aware of that? But when were you like conscientized of the fact that my why can change?
Sure, it's such a brilliant question. And I remember that I think the first time that it really hit me was pretty early on in my career. And Nakon, it's still like a soft knock, right? So it's not as loud. And it was when I had this amazing, I'd gone into university to study political science, right? Because I had told myself, Kuti, I'm going to be a political scientist because I know that I like speaking, and maybe it's going to be the pathway that's going to land me in parliament. Maybe I'm going to get involved in politics. I wasn't sure, but I knew that I wanted to do something to do with politics. And God being God, I landed up working in the presidency. And this was at the time that President Mbeki was president and Dr. Phumzile Mhlabunguka was deputy president. And I ended up working in the office of the deputy president. And I was the youngest person there. I was an intern, so I was, very, very junior. But it was an incredible experience, right? So I got to see the world. I got to travel. I got to understand how government works. I got to understand how, the world's leaders think and how they make their decisions. And I remember that what happened in my life is, and I'm going to talk about this concept called return on luck. It was a luck event. So I got a scholarship. So the scholarship was to go and study overseas. So I went to the UK and I did a master's in the UK. When I came back into South Africa, Polokwane was happening in South Africa. So for those who follow politics, you would know that President Mbeki was resigning. My then boss was also resigning. And I found myself kind of like, okay, what does this mean? And my boss then said to me, look, you can stay, but I have a job for you to consider. So I ended up leaving the presidency after about 3 years to go and work in the US first to get some experience in leadership development, because that's what she wanted me to come and do for her, to come and run a leadership development foundation. So I went to the US and I worked in the US. I came back and I worked with her and the team, and we started this foundation. But this is what happens as a young person. 3 years after that, I was kind of like, well, I've worked in government, I've worked now in civil society, but I've actually never worked in private sector. So you almost have, people talk about midlife crisis. This wasn't a midlife crisis. It was a quarter life crisis, right? So here I am having a quarter life crisis about, oh, Gosiam, does this mean that I'm destined to only work in government or only in civil society? Because I have no private sector experience. So what happens is I decide that I'm going to go and apply for jobs, right? And I now get onto a journey that is very humbling. You can imagine at this age, I'm young, I've got a master's degree from overseas, I've worked in the presidency, I think I'm all that, right? I am convinced, Guti, every single company up there is just going to lap me up and I'm not going to struggle. And I keep getting rejection after rejection after rejection. And the feedback is consistent. The feedback is, you speak so well, but you sound so smart, but you don't have an MBA, or you don't have a journalism degree, or you don't have a comms degree, because I did my master's in international studies and international relations. And so I kept on getting this feedback that you're not the right fit, that you're nice from far, but you're not the right fit for the organization. And I go through my first reckoning about having to have the conversation with myself, Kuti, what am I really here for? What am I supposed to do now with the fact that I don't want to be in this space anymore, but I'm also being told in the space that I want to go to that I don't fit, that I'm not good enough, that I don't qualify. And it was a very hard conversation I needed to have with myself about, okay, I might not qualify and fit for the places that I want to go to, but one thing that I am sure about is that I was never destined to stand still. And so what I am going to do is I'm going to keep moving forward as long as I'm moving in the direction of where I want to go. It doesn't matter if I'm not there today. It doesn't matter if I'm not there tomorrow, as long as I'm moving in the direction of where I want to go. And that's why when eventually the chairperson at Tata Africa found out that I was looking for a job, they came to me and they said, look, we don't really have a job for you. but we really like you and the way you seem to think about things. We're going to ask you to come and work for Tata. Now, you can imagine as a young person who thinks you're all of that, and here I'd been applying to McKinsey, I'd been applying to SAB Miller, which is now AB InBev, I'd been applying to the creme de la creme of all the companies that were coming back and telling me no. And suddenly I'm saying to myself, it wasn't part of my plan to go and work for a car company. Worse again, she messages Benz, I'm going to go and watch, I'm going to go and work for Tata. But you know, it was actually such an important life lesson, and I don't regret taking that decision because it became a stepping stone for so much more in my life. And had I not had the humility to have the conversation with myself to say, firstly, I accept and acknowledge that I'm getting the rejections, because that's the first step. Secondly, I also accept and acknowledge that that is not a reflection of how far I can go with my life. It is only a rejection now. It is only a no for now. But until I get there, I'm going to do something else. And my foot in the door was through Tata to get into the private sector. And because I worked at Tata, I got headhunted by CNBC Africa, and everything else became history. So the point that I'm trying to land, Gina, is this. We will all have moments where we feel stuck and we feel that we're standing in a place where we don't want to be. The difference between people who stay stuck and people who move forward are those that first recognize that there is a smaller step that I can take, and they take it. And that's what has been now consistent in my life is I know where I want to go. I might not get there in one journey, but if I take a series of smaller trips, and that has been my mantra for every single thing when I felt that my purpose was in question. And being able to use the skill that I had in government and apply it at Tata, and to take what I learned from Tata and apply it as a financial journalist, to take what I learned as a financial journalist and apply it as a conversation strategist. I think one of the biggest challenges I'm gonna call it not even a challenge, I think it's a mistake. I think one of the biggest mistakes we make, especially as young professionals, is trying to call your profession your purpose. Your profession will change. Your profession is not your purpose. Your purpose is bigger than that. Don't wrap your purpose with profession. At the core, you must remember that the gift that God has given you is the thing that stays constant. Your job will change because you will reinvent yourself. You will learn new things that give you new superpowers to do different things. And you've got to be able to know those moments where you say, I have now grown beyond this and I'm going to do something else. That doesn't mean that I'm discarding my purpose. All it means is I'm rediscovering and reinventing myself.
Woo! Wow. And so, Nozipho, I've got so many questions just on the purpose. But I kind of want to direct, this conversation in this way. Talk to me about the importance then of education. Just general young person, whatever industry, whatever sphere they're in, just getting an education. Do you think, in your journey as well, it has been an important sort of factor, whether it was a means to an end or it was just a natural progression of things, but just talk to us about like the importance of getting an education.
Sure. I mean, I love that question, right? And there's two things. There's education and there's lifelong learning. So lifelong learning means you don't stop getting educated, right? Because sometimes we think education is a means to an end. I think this idea that education is the key, and once you've opened the door, all is well, is the most untrue thing ever. I have studied and studied and studied, and I'm even gearing myself up now to start preparing to write my proposal for my PhD, because it is about lifelong learning, and it doesn't have to be sequential, right? So you don't have to go degree, master's, then PhD. Even when I had my master's, gone and done a junior certificate in project management because I needed to understand how to manage my own projects. When I had my second master's, I stopped in between all of that, finished my second master's, and I went to do a 6-month certificate on marketing because I needed to understand what are the marketing principles that I need to bring into my business. So the first thing I want to say to everyone is, stop thinking that education is the key that unlocks the door. Education is the door. It is everything. And the only way you're going to be able to keep reinventing yourself is if you subject yourself to lifelong learning. And it doesn't have to be formal education all the time. It doesn't have to be degrees and masters and certificates. Sometimes it's about just opening up your mind to learning something new from somebody else and just having that mindset. Yoguti, my mind can stretch. I can grow. I can know more today than what I knew yesterday. So that's the first thing. But the second thing I wanted to say is, I don't think that there's anything in my life that has been more destiny defining than being educated. Not a single thing. My parents broke their backs so that my sisters and myself would get the best education possible. And I want to say this, we know that for many of us, we didn't have the option of getting first year wrong. You know, you get a lot of kids who come in and they're just kind of like, I'm going to see what first year is all about. There was no money, right? So it was, you were in, you know, firstly, it was registration money. If you got registration money and then you got money to pay for your course, you better get it right. And so this is the point I'm trying to make. You are not defined by what you studied. This is very important. You are not defined by what you studied. Today, I'm a conversation strategist. I've studied political science, international relations, African conflict, international economics, international law, leadership, women in leadership, marketing, project management, finance, and development finance. I've studied all of those things. Those things don't define me. What defines you is what you do with that education. And what you do with that. So if you found yourself, and this is a reality for many Black people, if you found yourself having to do a public relations degree because that was the only thing that your parents could afford and that was the only thing that was available in varsity, that does not mean that you cannot take that knowledge and go and apply it somewhere else. I know doctors, medical doctors, who today are consultants because it is about the thinking capability that you apply into every space. So my point is this, don't be afraid of trusting that what you have learned can be applied somewhere else. When you go to school, you're not learning to, I mean, if you ask me today, when did Jan van Riebeeck come to Cape Town? I don't know what the date, I think it's 1865, but I mean, I could be wrong. Nobody in my work today pauses to ask me, Jan van Riebeeck, when did he come to the Western Cape? It doesn't matter. Yeah. What matters is the ability to apply your mind, to think things through critically, to pause and have the confidence and the courage to say, I don't know, so that you can give yourself permission to ask better questions. Because when you ask better questions, you get better answers and you know more. That's what education is. It's not about cramming and remembering dates and whatever. You could have studied law for all I care. And today you could be a hot strategist because law gave you the critical thinking skills to be able to analyze arguments and come up with something better. So to those who have children today, let's teach our children the importance of why are we getting an education. It's not about parroting and remembering and whatever. It's about, can you apply that which you know into another context, into another context, into another context. And when you do that, you begin to own the journey that your professional career takes on. It doesn't determine you. Just because you studied nursing, it doesn't mean you can't be anything else. You can be whatever you want. The only difference is, can you take what you've learned from nursing school, apply it in the space that you want to be. Every qualification is a stepping stone to being the highest version of yourself. It's not the end. It's not your identity. You are more than what you've studied.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, as a conversation strategist, then, do you think then that in that particular field, you can learn certain skills, you can study certain skills, can it be cultivated, or do you have to like naturally have be born with a certain talent to speak or to articulate strategy? What is that all about? Tell us the distinction of that. Do you think it can be cultivated?
Absolutely, Gina. It can. And in fact, this is the question I get in my DMs all the time, right? So trust and believe, no one's hitting on me in my DMs. They're all wanting to become conversation strategists, right? And it's forced me to actually pause and think about the answer. And when I look at my own life, I didn't set out to be a conversation strategist. I made up the term, right? So it didn't even exist before me. I didn't see somebody calling themselves a conversation strategist and decided, oh, that's what I want to be. I had to come to a point in my life when I'm like, nothing around me describes what I do. So you know what? I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to give it a meaning by living my life and doing the things that I'm doing so that other people can follow in those footsteps. Now, your question is about those footsteps, because people then ask me, okay, Nozi, what must I study? And here is why I'm going to repeat myself. It doesn't matter what you've studied. As long as you're open to learning what it takes to be here now. Firstly, it's very important to be what I call a T person, right? That means, means you know a lot about a lot of things, right? So you can speak on healthcare, you can speak on economics, you can speak on law, you can speak on renewable energy, you can speak on, financing instruments for developing economies. You know a lot about a lot of things. And how do you know that? You read a lot and you engage yourself in those things. Now, the bottom bit of the T is that you've got to be an expert in at least one thing, though, because what you don't want to be is one of those people who knows a lot of things but has no depth in one thing, right? So be a T person. Have a broad mind where you can engage in a lot of topics, but have a thing that you're known for, right? So I know that I'm known for global conversations. So if you want to talk United Nations, you want to talk World Bank, you want to talk IMF, you want to talk institutional policy, this is the thing that I'm known for in the world. So that's one. Two, you need to build your muscle as a speaker. You cannot do this job if you're not building your capability and your muscle as a speaker. So it's really, go, if you haven't done already, go and do Toastmasters. Go for public speaking skills. Do a basic certificate in business communication. But do the work that allows you to build the toolkit and the muscle to actually get onto the field of play and play. I'm going to end off with this. In trying to answer this question for myself, I'm in the process right now of partnering with the university that I can't name right now. And we are going to be releasing a course for anybody and everybody who wants to become a conversation strategist. Because at some point, we need to give people a pathway and a qualification. And so right now what we're busy doing is we're busy writing the course, and hopefully in this year it's going to be done. You're going to be able to go to this university, register. You will see me as one of your lecturers as well as others, but you will now officially have a pathway towards becoming a conversation strategist if that's what you decide to do with your life.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can't wait for you to share details. And obviously we have to say congratulations, because nobody just wakes up and partners with a whole university to bring about a course that's in line with your purpose and your passion. So congrats for that.
Thank you.
And I mean, I love this conversation because it's almost, I always, like I said, I mean, I always get this question a lot. I mean, when I'm obviously, trying to secure the interviews, I always get asked, please send me questions, let me know, so the guests can prepare. But I always want to throw you in the deep end. But it looks like I haven't been able to with you.
Keep trying.
I'll keep trying, right? No, but I'm almost trying to get a sense of like, the whole, okay, so we clear that, obviously education or in fact learning is a lifelong, thing. And, there isn't a particular, until now, obviously you bringing it about very soon, there isn't a particular sort of, course or, one subject matter that you can then go study for you to be able to then cultivate this. But you're saying it can be cultivated, right? So now, how do we then, let's say I want to be a conversation strategist. I want to be in the field where, whether it's facilitating conversation or maybe even, giving some kind of strategy or direction around, conversations around policy or politics. How do I then package myself and, whatever services that I want to offer the industry and say, hey guys, this is what I want to do. So I'm trying to kind of get like the blueprint to say, not a blueprint even, just like a, how do I package myself? What is the kind of wording that I need to use? What is the kind of, what's the strategy? Like, what is the strategy in making sure that I get, myself out there, I put myself in front of the right people that will then be able to, acquire or buy my services?
Look, remember, you are a product in the market, right? And you are servicing clients, right? And so first of all, you've got to stand out in the market, just like any product on a shelf. Why would the World Bank or the IFC, as somebody else was saying in the comments, or any other organization trust you with their audience, with their brand, with their reputation? And so your differentiation is the first thing. So remember what I said about being a tea person. What is it that you are offering the world here in the bottom of your tea, that you are the most qualified, most capable person to moderate a conversation on that topic? So, I mean, I love this conversation because it keeps circling back to the same things. Your credibility is going to be boosted, not only just because of the letters you have in your name, because of what you've studied, but how you've been able to take what you know and package it in such a way that you're able to ask the right questions, you're able to build the right conversational strategies for your clients, and you're able to stand out in the market. I always say this to people that I train: conversation strategists are in the business of trust. We're not in the business of talking. Anybody can talk. And worse so, even a lot of people can sound motivational and all sorts of things. That's not why we're being hired. When an organization hires you for your service, they are buying trust. They are buying that, one, they can trust you with their reputation. So you're not going to get up on stage or their virtual stage and say things that show that you don't have an understanding of the topic, you don't understand the issues, you don't know what the right questions are. So they're trusting you with their brand. They're also trusting you with their audience, because you're now, today I was moderating something with 1,650 people, and that is somebody's audience. So when a client says to me, you're the person I'm going to put in front of my audience because I want you to communicate my strategy to this audience, it means that I would have had to demonstrate to that client that I can sell you that trust, because I know if I'm the one who says this instead of you, I'm going to get the job done. I'm going to get that objective of that strategy sold and done. So that's what they're buying. That's what they're buying from me. So you need to be clear when you're putting yourself in the market. What is the trust that you're actually selling, and how are you packaging that trust? So that's one. It's actually got nothing to do with the thing. A lot of people think what conversation strategy is, which it's not. And I want to clarify this. First of all, conversation strategy is not a side hustle and it's not a gig, right? I always tell people who work around me, don't talk to me about gigs. I don't do gigs. I don't do side hustles. This is a profession. And so if you're going to show up in the space as a person looking for a gig, your clients are going to see right through you because your attention is somewhere else where you're earning your salary. And this is just a side door that you are trying to do. When you know, it's like going to see a surgeon and the surgeon is like, oh yeah, I'm going to come in quickly here and do a heart surgery for you. But me, I'm a lawyer somewhere else. Right? So your credibility is out, it's out the window. The other thing that it's not presenting, it's not facilitating in the way that we know it, because it's not even anchoring. So a lot of people think that if they speak well, a client's going to give them a script and then they just have to go on stage and read the thing and look and put on nice makeup and wear nice clothes and deliver. That's not about it at all. The significance of what we're doing as conversation strategists is we are coming to a place where we understand that conversation is the birthplace of action. And that in the absence of conversation, there is no action in the world whatsoever. Now, if you accept that mantra and you accept that belief that conversation is the birthplace of action, there can be no government, there can be no partnerships, there can be no civil society, there can be no business in the absence of conversation. And so when we show up as professionals that take the profession as seriously as a heart surgeon takes his profession, as seriously as an astronaut takes going up into space, we then begin to highlight to the world the importance of the work that we do. Hence, I ban language around me that talks about gigs and side hustles, and that for as long as you have that mentality and mindset, you're not even in the game and you don't even realize it, because conversation strategists are fully immersed in the space because we understand the gravitas of the work and the job that we have ahead of us.
And do you think then there's a certain image, just on image, do you think there's a certain image that, you know, as, you know, a profession, you know, you have to sort of uphold in terms of, you know, the way you dress? Obviously, you know, we all have to be put together in the corporate space or in the workplace in any case. But do you think, you know, just the image, your personal image is then important in the sort of work that you do?
It's such a great question. I think both and. So definitely yes and no. So on the one hand, I think this is very different from television presenters where the emphasis is how do you look, right? And the emphasis here is on your capability, right? However, having said that, you are on stage, right? When I get invited to a global stage, I make a point of looking in a particular way because I know that it's not just about what I have to say. The first impression that my audience has of me before I've opened my mouth is what I look like. And that is going to influence how much they're going to gift me in terms of space to engage them. And so I will be very deliberate, for example, when I'm on a global stage, to wear something that has a touch of Africa in it, whether it's braiding my hair, whether it's wearing a scarf that has got an African print. When in the pre-COVID world, I made a point that when I got onto global stages in Paris, in Geneva, in New York, wherever I was, that I was wearing something that had some sort of African imprint on it, because I understand that it matters that it is an African that is holding down this global conversation. It matters that this is a woman who is holding down the conversation. And so I will, for those who follow me, will notice I make a deliberate effort. I wear a lot of dresses because I believe that there's also about normalizing Black women as conversational leaders in the world. And if I want to be part of normalizing that, I've got to look the part, and looking the part in terms of what I think a Black woman looks like. And so I will make a point of being feminine. I'll make a point of wearing a dress. I'll make a point of wearing a skirt. I'll make a point of having something about me that says I'm African. I'll make a point of, when I'm introducing myself, to slow it down when I say my name, so that everybody understands that this is an African on the stage. I'll make a point of signing off and telling everyone from the tip of the African continent, from myself, Nozipho Tshabalala, it's goodbye. It's important that you are mindful of the multiple audiences you're playing to. So there will be people that I'm speaking to that are just engaging with me at an intellectual level. They don't care what I'm looking like. They're just intrigued by what I have to say. But I do know that there are people who are looking at me and trying to give meaning through me to what they're experiencing. And what I want to give the world is a normalization that African women are natural leaders when it comes to global conversations. And so I can't show up on those global stages looking un-African and looking like I'm not a woman and looking like everything that is against that identity. And we all choose the identities that we want to project to the world, right? For example, I always say that I can't wait till the day I'm pregnant, because I want to go on stage with my tummy, because I want to make it a point that people understand that as a mother, I can still hold down the global conversation, because that is an identity that I would be proud to embody. And so my point to your question, to round it off, you're saying, does it matter the image, what you look like? Yes, it matters. But you need to decide what is the identity that you're playing to. And if that is and there's nothing wrong with, for example, you decide that you wanted an identity that is hardcore finance. So all you're ever going to wear is suits, and you're going to, look in a particular way because you're trying to sound American or whatever. If that's the identity you want to distinguish yourself as a product on the market, then do you, Ntasekai. But just know that it does matter that people will decide whether you're worth their time or not before you've even said anything.
Oh my word. Boom, 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 boom.
I feel like
you just dropped a bomb, and I think I don't think this is anything that's like out of the ordinary. It's not something that we're not, just as general adults are not aware of. But I'm kind of selfishly, deliberately asking this question for myself, because I think, as a taller, status quo woman, when I'm doing presentations, obviously, when I'm trying to, pitch for business, or I'm trying to, just be in a, I kind of know when to kind of turn it up. So I'm asking, because I'm just like, should I always then be turned up? Should you always be like, however you want to show up, this is how you show up? Or am I allowed to then be myself and wear my t-shirt, my business pay t-shirt, because I'm having a conversation and it's later on in the evening? And that versus, this whole conversation about why do we care what people think of us?
It's a brilliant question, and it comes down to personal brand. Now, I always say this. I saw my sister was on this live, and I was just having this conversation with her the other day. Your personal brand is not what you think your personal brand is. It's not what you go around telling people, Uguti, this is your personal brand. No. Your personal brand is how people describe you when you are not in the room. So imagine a situation where, I see somebody's called Harmony here. Imagine a situation where Harmony and I are having a conversation, and Harmony and I have both forgotten your name, right? And we're like, I'm talking about that lady, man. Which one? That one.
Which one?
Those 3 words after which one that they use to describe you are who you are, and are the way that you show up, right? And so you don't have control of what people think of you. You can't control that. You can try the best or whatever you can do, and people can still dislike you because of their own issues, right? So I might have issues about women who dye their hair blonde. And no matter how amazing you are professionally, I write you off before you spoke. I'm like, there's another blonde one, right? I'm gone. Now, here's the thing. For as long as you're living your authentic self, when you want to turn it up and put on makeup on, that's what you do. When you want to come and do a live with no makeup on, that's what you do. If you want to put on your business babe t-shirt, that's what you do. Because then in the absence of you being in the room, when I describe you, I would say something like, that lady, man, you know, sometimes you see her, she's like quite chilled with her business babe t-shirts on. I don't know if you might have seen her when she does these big presentations. She's really like looking like whatever and I describe you. Now, the trap I think a lot of people fall into is trying to control how people describe them. You shouldn't be focusing on that. You should be focusing on what is an authentic living of myself. So you would see, if you went onto my Instagram, I have moments where I look like this because I've been moderating conversations all day. So of course I've had a makeup artist come in and do my face. I have moments where I'm fighting the fat on my arms and my thighs. I'm working out with no makeup on, with no hair, with no weave, because that too is also who I am. I have moments of traveling with my husband, because that too is who I am. I have moments of being in Pietermaritzburg in the Bundus, you know, with the duke on my head or a pinafore, because you know what? That too is who I am. What I'm not going to do is to only live slices of my life, because I believe that those are the slices that are more palatable to people, and that those are the parts of my life that people want to see. I'm going to live my life authentically, fully, richly, in all its complexity. And I'm going to leave to people to decide what they want to decide. But for as long as I can sleep at night with how I've shown up every day and how I've treated people and how I've engaged with people, what they say about me then in my absence is neither here nor there. And so the point I'm trying to say is, guys, don't rack your brain trying to project a brand that isn't yourself. Live your life authentically and truthfully, and your brand will come out of that. And so people will say, oh, I know who you're talking about, the person who's like this, like this, like this. And for as long as like this, like this, like this is a true reflection of the way you've really shown up, it's okay. And not everybody's going to like it either. And not everybody's going to like you either. And making peace with that is part of just maturity and understanding you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And as long as you can sleep at night, then that's also fine.
Yeah. Okay, you've literally hit, okay, yeah. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is an exciting conversation. Yeah, I do get giddy when, you know, my guests touch on very, very, especially points that are obviously close to my heart. But then Nozipho, I'm almost trying to. So there's a I believe a fine line between I'm looking at Nozipho, Tshabalala. This is what she's doing, and she's so amazing at her work, and I'm almost then trying to mimic or to, you know, kind of do something very similar to what she's doing, which I think I mean, of course, we can't exist as the only whatever's, you know, the only black female to do this or the only, you know, anything. We are bound to have, you know, some kind of competition, but I almost want us to, like, how do we peel the layers off where I can then be objective and say, this is Nozipho, she's doing a fantastic job, but then this is me, this is my truth, this is my purpose, and this is how I'm gonna show up, you know. So how do we almost like break ourselves away, because it's so easy to be consumed, especially with social media, because we see so many different, you know, influencers or personalities or people that are doing really amazing jobs. And I mean, if I had this conversation probably like 2 years ago, I'd also be part of those people that are like, I want to do what she's doing, you know, and lose it along the way because I'm trying to copy or trying to do so much of what you are doing. How do we kind of find our own voice? I mean, you spoke about branding and identity and finding sort of your own, obviously the tea, that special, this what you're good at. But my angle is like, how do we make sure that well, I'm not copying Nozipho, so to speak. I don't know if
So
that makes
let me
sense.
help you out. Let me help you out. Because
Yeah.
it's a very
Yeah.
multifaceted question. So let me start off by firstly saying there's nothing wrong with being inspired by people, right? We can be inspired by others. We can look at other people's success. We can look at their lives, whether it's social media and other ways, and be inspired by that person, right? And in fact, James Clear, I think he wrote the book Atomic Habits. James Clear says, it is the height of arrogance to believe that you can't be inspired by people, right? And so actually there's inspiration all around us through people's stories, and it's absolutely okay to tap into that inspiration. Now, having said that, I think where we often see the mistake happening is people then trying to become that other person. So instead of lifting the inspiration and saying, I'm inspired by Tina because she is like, you're really taking this small business conversation forward, and I find that inspirational and I want to do that as well. The next question is the one that never comes up. How do I do this in my own unique way? And so there's a huge difference between being inspired and just duplicating that somebody else is doing. Now, in the event that people do this, and this happens in my space as well, where people then try to be you, right?
Yeah.
I think, this is my personal view. Firstly, copying is the greatest form of flattery. If you want to copy me, go ahead. The one thing that I can tell you though, is you're not going to be me. Because there is only one me. And I am the best version of me that exists. You're never going to be a better version of me. So, the best thing to do is take from my story and from my experience that which you are inspired by and apply it to your life and produce something that is uniquely you. And what the missing piece is, oftentimes we don't want to do the work of figuring out what is the uniquely me thing, because it just seems easier to copy somebody else and what they're doing. The sad thing about that is that the marketplace, because this has to come back to the marketplace will always know that there is one thing and that everybody else is a copy or a knockoff of thing. But and especially, I think as women, it's so important. Every single human being has something unique about them. Find your unique thing. And if you're inspired by Nozi's journey as a conversation strategist, use that. I really use that. So for example, when I started calling myself a conversation strategist, a lot of people started calling themselves a conversation strategist. Now, I think a closed-minded person might say, oh, they're copying you, Nozipho. And I'm like, no, guys, it's absolutely fine. In fact, it is a reflection of the legacy that I'm leaving in my space. The one thing that I do know is that clients who buy my services understand what they're getting. They're getting Nozipho Tshabalala. And everybody else can be an attempt at Nozipho Tshabalala, unless, of course, they do the work of their own unique self. There are other conversation strategists that are other forms of teas. And I look at that and I'm inspired by that. But you know what? It is not me. I know what makes me, why I stand out as a product on the shelf. And I think for as long as we're not having that hard, honest conversation to ask yourself, am I inspired or am I now just seeking to copy? You're going to sell yourself short because you are now not doing the work of finding that thing that makes you shine in your own brightness, right? It doesn't have to shine brighter than Trina, doesn't have to shine brighter than Nozipho. It shines in its own brightness. And when you put that brightness on, the client will see it because it's different from anything they've seen from Nozipho. And that's why I don't have issues with mentoring people who want to be conversation strategists. A couple of them are on here now where I say to them, guys, I'll do a masterclass free of charge. for 2 hours, and I'll share with you the ticks and trips and everything that I do and how I build my business, because I'm not intimidated by the idea that people want to become conversation strategists. In fact, I'm humbled by it. The fact that people are inspired by my story, I'm humbled by it. But I'm also confident that God only made one version of me. And so, try as people may, they can only be themselves. So when I see things that I put out being copied in other spaces by other people, here we to, we let people try. You let people try, and you just keep doing you and being good and being professional and knocking it out the ballpark. And one day they'll realize and they'll get tired of trying to be you, and they'll stumble upon themselves and they'll start to be themselves. And I really hope that that day comes soon for a lot of people in this particular space.
Yeah. Oh, before I ask my final question, in fact, I've got two sort of questions, because I want to touch a little bit on the money, aspect of it. This is always an interesting conversation for me, and it is Money Monday. I want us to touch a little bit on the money. We always, and I'm interested to know your perspective on this, because I ask my guests this question all the time, and there is a common answer that I get. So I'm curious to know if you're also from that sort of school of thought. We are in a world, in a time where, in an economy also that's like we need money, Nozipho, like can we be real for a second? We need money. We want money. Money is obviously not everything, but we kind of need money, So I'm interested to know from you that should we be chasing money, so to speak? Okay, maybe chasing is the wrong word to use, but I'm trying to frame it in a way. Should we be interested in the money, where the money resides, as is popularly known now? Or should we be focusing more on community, on, just providing value? Like, what is your take on that? Are we all like, okay, in fact, which one comes first? Are you, let me build up my community? Because I think both of them, matter in their own, ways. But I think, am I like, first, let me build my community, let me build my brand, and then the money will come? Or should I then chase money? I'm trying to find another word for chase. Should I, be looking to get paid, especially in the beginning of my, speaking career, or my, career as a conversation strategist, and then try to build up my community from there? So which one should kind of come first?
You will not get paid if you don't have a brand worth paying for. Okay, so the long and short of it, in my view, is do things that, so I always talk about, okay, so there's this thing called the hedgehog, right? So if you read Jim Collins, he talks about the hedgehog, and he says it's 3 circles interlinked, right? He says, whatever you're doing, you must have a shot at being the best in the world at it. So is this thing that I'm doing, could I really be the best in the world at it? Or am I copying Okuna? Or am I copying Utuli? Or whatever the case may be. He says the second thing is, will the world pay me for it? Right? So he says, could this be an economic engine? So is this worth paying for? And this is a conversation I have with a lot of people that I mentor, to say, I get that you want to be a speaker, but is the world willing to pay for what you want to talk about? Right? You might think it's interesting, but is the world willing to pay for what you want to talk about? The third thing that Jim Collins talks about, he says, can I get repeat profitable clients from it? So this idea that it's not a once-off purchase, that people are going to want to buy this over and over and over and over again. And so he says, this is your hedgehog. And if you can find something that sits at the center of that thing, the way it works is, the more you do it, repeat profitable clients, the more you get paid. And the more you do it, the happier it makes you. The happier it makes you, the more you want to do it, the more you get clients, the more you get repeat profitable. You know, so it's a chicken and an egg issue. And so I always say that the first thing is first understanding, how can I do more of what lights me up, and do it in a way that people will want to pay for it. Even if they're only paying 5 Rand now, but if they pay me 5 Rand today and then they pay me 10 Rand tomorrow, and if I did more of it, is there and Jim Collins calls it a flywheel momentum. Is there flywheel momentum to say, the more I do this, the more money I'm going to make, and because I'm making more money, the more clients are going to see me, the more clients see me, the more work I get to do, the more work I get to, do you see how it goes round and round and round? Now, where's your starting point? And this is where it gets difficult. Your starting point is, first, find what you love. Trust me when I say this. When you do what you love, trust and believe the money will follow. I'll share a short story. When I was moving jobs from South Africa and joining CNBC Africa, I got headhunted by CNBC and they said to me, look, we think we'd like you to become an anchor. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't know the first thing about trading shares and how the stock market works and all of these things. I don't know how these things work, but I was excited by the possibility that I could be speaking every day. And so they then put the numbers in front of me and they said, add half your salary, right? So here I was driving a nice car. I was living in a nice place. I was well up on my corporate ladder, and suddenly this opportunity comes about, and the opportunity is, for half the amount of money you're making now, we're going to give you a job where you get to do what you love every single day. And TV wasn't the purpose. The purpose was speaking. Remember the fact that I was on TV, don't wrap your profession around your purpose. Remember that, right? So the purpose that lived inside me was a God-given gift to speak. And so I gave it up. I changed where I lived. I downgraded my life. And I just decided, you know what? I know for a fact that if I do more of this, eventually it's going to allow me to get recognition. Somebody's going to pay for it. And when they pay for it, I'm going to do more of it. And my flywheel momentum started. Within 9-10 months, the money that I had lost, I had made back in bucket loads. Because when I started at CNBC, although I was on half of my salary, I then started moderating. And that's how I started to make money on the side. And then came another big decision that then speaks to this very theme, which is I suddenly had to confront the possibility of giving up my full-time job, because I was confronted by the thing I was telling you about, to say, I can't go around saying to people that conversation strategy is not a side hustle when I myself have a full-time job at CNBC Africa, and then every now and then I get a gig, and yet I'm calling this thing a profession. So I took the decision and I quit my job. And I decided that I was going to become, at that time we were calling it global moderator, because I hadn't figured out the new word that I needed to define myself with. But I decided, you know what, I'm going to become a global moderator full time. People thought I had lost my mind. And the more I moderated, the more clients I got. The more clients got, the more work I got. The more work I got, the more I moderated. And so the cycle. And again, within 6 months of quitting my job, I began to make what I made in a month in a day. And so the long and short of your question is, don't prioritize the money, prioritize the love. So ask yourself, like, how does this, and maybe a good place to start is to ask yourself, when am I happiest in my working? What is the thing that gives me enough joy, such that if I wasn't being paid for it, I would do it anyway. That's the thing you've got to do. And you know, if it makes you that happy, you will find a way to start that economic engine that Jim Collins talks about. And once you've got your first client, that becomes your second client and leads you to your third client, to your fourth client. Today, I have a website, I'm on social media, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm all of those things. But 90% of my work comes from word of mouth. Not because people found me or because I advertise or because of marketing, simply because people can feel the love for what I do. And so part of trusting me is they're like, this person that we're getting is not here because they're trying to make money. She's here because she deeply believes in what she's doing. And that's why I'm going to trust her with my brand. The money will come. Trust and believe, the money will come.
But Nozipho, we almost always hear about people once they've passed that, that 6-month period, 9-month period. Like, how do we get through that 6 months of saying, like, how do we adjust, the mindset, our lives, that period where you're saying now your salary is cut in half? The reality is you're in this situation, and we might be speaking to people that are in a similar situation. How do we get through that night, that period while you're trying to, do you know what I mean? Like that period.
Downgrade, Mr. Kai. Downgrade.
Downgrading.
Downgrade. I'm telling you a true story. I got to a point when I was taking the job. I was driving a Mercedes. I was living in a beautiful townhouse. And I literally got to a point where I was like, I'm going to take back this car. I'm going to go get myself a smaller something. I'm going to change where I live because I understand that this has to come before this. And I can tell you this, when you I know that money is important, guys. I am, as a person who's not coming from a privileged background, I know that money is important and it's the thing. But give yourself the opportunity to put love first. And the way you do that, to put the thing you love first, is pull back. Go back to a point of saying, so let me tell you a story, because I think this is going to land it even better. So yeah, I was struggling with the decision to leave my job at CNBC Africa and to become a full-time moderator. And I was having a conversation with a friend, and I was saying to him, Uguti, I'm so worried because I have a set salary here and it affords me 1, 2, 3, and 4. But remember, now I've worked myself up from having downgraded my life. I've worked myself back. Now I'm saying I'm taking another jump. And this time I have no idea. There's no one saying to me, I'm offering you half of your salary or a quarter of your salary. There's nobody offering me nothing. The only thing I have going for myself is my gut feeling. I am good at this and I know I'm going to make it work. So he then says to me, okay, so you're really afraid of taking this jump. So let's name your fear. I said to him, what are you talking about? He says, name your fear. I said, well, I think my fear has more than one name. So he said, go ahead. I said, my fear is called December and January and April. So he said, what do you mean by that? I said, nobody is hosting conferences in December, January, and April. Now, in those months where I'm making 0 rands, how on earth am I going to sustain my life? And then he said, okay, so you're telling me that the other 9 months, you can't work so hard that, in fact, December, January, and April become holidays, that you don't even work. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I didn't even think about it that way, that this could be my holiday in time where I'm not stressing as other people are working. I don't even work at all. Now, I couldn't just quit my job with absolutely nothing the next month. And that's why I started off by straddling. I continued at CNBC and then I started doing moderating on the side. And when I felt that, okay, I'm not making as much as I'm making now, but there comes a time where you have to cut the umbilical cord because time doesn't allow you to be in 2 places at once. And you've got to take the leap of faith, Uguti. I'm going to give up this in the hope that this decision is going to play out because I'm going to be more available to do this kind of work. And after about straddling for maybe 6 or 7 months, I let go. And in those first couple of months, I didn't make the money that I was making as a salary. But again, flywheel momentum. And before I knew it, that 6 months, if I pause now and I think to myself, my goodness gracious, I suffered in those months because I was worried about my financial status. I was worried about the future of what I needed to do. But if I had to pause now and say, would I rather have not taken the leap of faith just because I was afraid of January, December, and April? Where would I be if I hadn't done that? And I really today, and I say this with utmost humility, what I was making in a month, now I make on a charge of 30 minutes, right? And so the jump between having to wait for the end of a month for something that I can make now because I billed the client 30 minutes of my time is chalk and cheese. But you've got to take the leap of faith, and you take a calculated leap. You downsize your life. You take away all the responsibilities. You get rid of the expensive car. You move out of the expensive place. But knowing what, if I'm doing this and I'm able to do it because I love it, and I'm going to get, even if I'm not getting paid at the level that I want to get paid, but I know if I get this client, that they'll recommend me to that client, to the next client, I will be okay. I promise you, it works itself out. Like I said to you, Tina, I don't write proposals. I don't go and pitch my business. Business comes to me. Why is that? That's because when I get onto a virtual stage or a physical stage, I know immediately, Uguti, every single person who's watching me in that moment is a potential client. So when I'm on that stage, it's doing it in such a way that every client, every person sitting in that seat needs to look at me and think, the next time I need a moderated conversation, I'm not going to any other shelf, but I'm going to the shelf where Nozipho is sitting. Sorry guys, my husband just walked in. Oh no, you cancelled. Sorry. It's his time now, so I need to be responsive.
Yes. Hello, husband. We're almost done. Okay, my final question: where can people get hold of you if they do want that mentorship? Where can they, sort of hang out with you? Just get a little bit more of Nozipho.
Okay, so I do a annual masterclass, which is part of my giving back, where I do about. Sure. So the last time when we did it virtually, we did it for 300 people who wanted to get onto this journey, and I do them in classes of 100 people per go. At the end of last year, we did a physical masterclass where we had some ladies and a gent joining us for some physical mentorship. What I have noticed is that I struggle to keep up with all the requests for mentorship. And so what I do is that the master classes work better because we schedule the master class. I ask people to send questions in advance, and for 2 hours we're sitting together on a private Zoom call, and I'm really responding to all of the questions that people are sending me. And as I said, I'm really hoping that this year we're able to conclude the academic course that we're busy building, so that more people are not relying on Nozipho to give them, tips and insights. They can register for the course and get the best education towards becoming a conversation strategist. And I'm always open to that. And to the best of my ability, I try to be accessible. So, I'm on Instagram, I'm on all the other platforms. The handle is at the real Nozi. And I think I'm pretty responsive. I don't think I've got airs and graces about responding. I think I'm pretty responsive. And I think I'm accessible. Hey, and I've got a website. If you just Google the Conversation Strategist, you can find out about all the work that I do. But the best way to get a hold of me is probably through my office. You can send us an email to info@theconversationstrategists, the plural.com. And by the way, Trina, the reason there's a plural is because what you said earlier, which was so important, is that it's not important to be just the first. It's really about building a community, and that's why we call ourselves the Conversation Strategists, and that's why I don't call myself, or my website isn't the Conversation Strategist. It's all of us. It's a community of us, and so find us on the website, find us everywhere. I'm always happy to chat. I'm always happy to do lives, whatever is required. I'm here.
Yeah. What's the legacy that you want to leave behind?
I want my children to look back and say, my mom was not only the first conversation strategist in the world, but she created a tribe of conversation strategists after she left. And because of my mother, today it's normal that Black African women can hold down global conversations. That's all I want.
Nozipho, it's been such a pleasure having you on this live. Again, thank you so much for spending your time with us and sharing so openly about your journey and just the kind of work that you do. I am super inspired. So we'll continue watching this space because I'm sure there's loads more to watch. I didn't even get to ask you half the questions because I wanted to know the holistic, like, what's your routine like? What do you do? What do you
I'm still here.
the time? What did you have for breakfast? Your health regime. Like, we want to get together, and we'll reach there, I think, one day. And I think as somebody who is accessible, if you don't mind, we might just follow up, maybe taking a completely different angle. I do want to, emphasize, because when I was reading your bio, just the background on you, I knew that I did not want to miss out on any particular important detail, because from your education to your experience and background, there's so much. And I think if there is an opportunity to actually do like a part two where we delve into then, more on just the African woman, because I know that you're very passionate about putting African and the woman, part of you and the thing that you do, the work that you do forward. So perhaps we'll take a different angle altogether. But today I really just wanted to get a sense of who's Nozipho, what does she do? How can we also, just cultivate, the kind of purpose and passion for our work like you do. And so I think I think I've done a good job.
No, you have. You've done an excellent job. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much for just taking time to connect with my story and to take such care about having a very authentic conversation with me. I look forward to part two, part three, whatever the case may be. If there's any way I can lend my voice, I'm very happy to do so. And also, I think I grow from these conversations as well. When you're in the business of asking questions, sometimes it's so refreshing when somebody else is asking you the questions. So thank you for the gift that you've given me today. It's highly appreciated. And thank you to everyone who joined today. It's just been super special. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nozipho. All the best. More grease to your elbows. We'll talk.
Love that. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Alrighty. So thank you so much to everybody that has managed to join this conversation today. I really, really, really did not want to let Nozipho go. I know I say this with most of my guests, but it's just so enriching to have a conversation with people that have been there, that have done that, people that can tell us the true story. I always take my audience with me, into the confidence. I never claim to have everything together. I just want to learn and absorb as much as I can. And so thank you for staying the journey with me. If you are interested at all to continue this journey, make sure you follow my page, share this live with somebody that you think can benefit. If you have not been able to catch the full conversation, I will be posting it up. Thank you for the love. I will be posting it up on my Instagram page, as well as then we'll have another, post of it on our YouTube. And you can catch all the other previous conversations on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and share with as many people that you think can benefit from these conversations. But from me to you, it's nothing but love. I am signing out. Any questions, you're welcome to DM me, DM Nozipho. I think her email address, in fact, her email address is info@theconversationstrategists, right? Plural, .co.za. So do make sure that you do get in touch and see how she can help you advance your career and, provide some mentorship for you. All right, amazing. Cheers for now, guys. See you next Monday.